Do you have those times when you just don't quite feel yourself? You find yourself feeling a little out of sorts at work, you feel tired, disengaged, unmotivated, and sometimes even start checking how long it is until it's time to go home when you've only just got to work. Add to that, you find yourself snapping at colleagues, which is something that you never do. This in turn makes you annoyed. Throw in the fact that it feels like there's never enough hours in the day to get everything done, and it all adds up to a constant feeling of being left behind, which in turn makes you demoralised. Does any of this sound familiar? Well, if it does, there's a good chance you're showing signs of burnout. But fortunately, you've come to the right place, because in this video, I'll talk you through what burnout is, what its consequences are, and how you can avoid burnout in your career. So first things first, what is burnout? At this stage, it's worth noting that there are two definitions of burnout. Both are important and worth understanding. So firstly, Ila Pines and Elliot Aronson describe burnout as a state of physical and emotional and mental exhaustion caused by long-term involvement in emotionally demanding situations. Secondly, Herbert J. Freudenberger described it as a state of fatigue or frustration brought about by devotion to a cause, way of life, or relationship that failed to produce the expected reward. Taking a step back, both of these definitions embrace the essence of burnout. I mean, the first one stresses the role of exhaustion in it, for example, whilst the second one focuses on the sense of disillusionment. It's fair to say that anyone can become exhausted. I mean, we all know what that feels like. But what is so poignant about burnout is that it mainly strikes people who are highly committed to their work. I know that sounds slightly confusing, so let me dive in, because while exhaustion can be overcome with rest, a core part of burnout is a deep sense of disillusionment. If you are the kind of person who has a more cynical view of their work, you are stereotypically less likely to experience burnout. So if we know that burnout revolves around exhaustion and disillusionment, what are the warning signs we need to look out for? Well, to help you, here are 11 warning signs to show that you are heading for burnout. Specific symptoms of burnout include having a negative and critical attitude at work, dreading going into work and wanting to leave once you're there, having low energy and little interest at work, having trouble sleeping, having feelings of emptiness, being irritated easily by team members or clients. Who doesn't find clients frustrating at times? Having thoughts that your work doesn't have meaning or make a difference. Pulling away emotionally from your colleagues or clients. Feeling that your work and contribution goes unrecognized. Blaming others for your mistakes. You're thinking of quitting work or changing roles. Now, you may also find that experiencing physical complaints such as headaches or illness or backaches more regularly also contribute to warning signs of burnout. Now, they might not actually be caused by burnout, but the body has a wonderful way of telling you when something isn't right. I wanted to touch on the topic of stress quickly, as I know that stress and burnout are often used interchangeably, but really important to know the difference. So with that in mind, what are the differences between stress and burnout? Although they share some characteristics, there are some distinct differences. Stress is often relatively short-term and can be caused by a feeling that work is out of control. You might experience stress several days in a row, especially if you're working on a large project or under a tight deadline. In fact, I had it last week when trying to complete a report for the COO to read. It was a tight deadline and all I could do was think about this bloody report. It just kept popping up in my thoughts. However, once the situation changes, stress often lessens or disappears entirely, which is exactly what happened to me. The weight lifted off my shoulders, and almost immediately after sending the report, I was able to relax. But that's not to say that stress can't affect you over the longer term, as it can, especially if you're constantly experiencing these things. Burnout, however, often takes place over a longer period. You might experience it if you believe your work is meaningless, for example. This happens when you believe that there is a disconnect between what you are currently doing and what you truly want to be doing. I've battled with this in the past and found solace in the book Free Range Human by Marianne Cantwell. Well, this one, in fact. It resonated so strongly that I felt at times she was writing about my life. I'll put a link in the description below because this is a highly recommended read. Alternatively, you may feel frustrated when things just change for the worse. This could be when you lose a supportive boss or when your workload increases beyond a sustainable point, for example. The best way to notice this is if you find yourself just going through the motions instead of actually truly being engaged. It might not happen immediately, but slowly over time this leads to cynicism, exhaustion, and sometimes a decrease in performance. With all that in mind, what are the causes of burnout? Well, people experience burnout for a variety of reasons. Some cite a lack of autonomy as a cause, i.e. if you don't have much control over your work, whilst others say it's when their values don't align with the actions, behaviours or values of the organisation or even the role that they're performing. I've spoken previously about the values work I've done over the last few years, which have reinforced which ones are most important and precious to me. It meant I was able to determine which jobs I should leave, because those companies' values whom I was working for that didn't match mine became an easier conversation. In addition, it's at times in previous jobs that I felt that my integrity was being questioned, and that gave me anxiety. If you do fancy hearing about why I quit my job with nothing to go to, then do check out this video here. It's also worth noting what other causes of burnout are, and these can include having unclear goals or job expectations, working in a dysfunctional team or organisation, experiencing excessive workload, having little or no support from your boss or organisation, lacking recognition for your work, having monotonous or low stimulated work. So with that in mind, what are the consequences of burnout, you might be asking? Well, clearly the consequences of burnout can be quite severe. I mean, productivity can drop dramatically if frustration sets in, and this not only impacts your career, but probably will negatively impact those around you. I'm willing to bet your creativity will suffer too. You'll become creatively stifled, even if you don't work in a creative environment. It is likely you will miss opportunities. And if you do spot the opportunity, you might not have the desired drive or motivation to act on them. But as with all things, it is difficult to keep career and personal life separate. So it's highly likely that you'll be experiencing burnout, then it's going to impact your personal life as well. This will more than likely manifest itself in poorer well-being, relationships with your friends and family suffering, and you generally just being a bit of a grouch to be around. But all is not lost, because it is possible to avoid burnout. So how do we avoid burnout? When feelings of burnout start to occur, many people focus on the short-term solutions, such as taking a vacation. There is no doubt that this can certainly help. I mean, who doesn't love a holiday, right? The relief, though, sadly is only temporary. What happens when you return home? I mean, the Sunday evening blues is bad enough, let alone having to factor in the demoralised feeling of burnout too. Therefore, it makes sense to also focus on our strategies that will have a deeper impact and create longer lasting change. With that in mind, here are my 5 specific strategies to help avoid burnout, especially if you are working from home. Number 1, work with purpose. Now this is a biggie, so sit down if you're not sat down already. Do you feel that your career has a deeper purpose other than just earning a salary? Most of the time, rediscovering your purpose can go a long way towards helping you avoid burnout and keeping stress at bay. I've talked about this at great length in my video called Should You Be Part of the Great Resignation? Because this is all with a view about making meaningful change. It's worth looking at the deeper impact of what you do every day and asking yourself, how does your work make you feel? Does what you do make life better for other people? How could you add more meaning to what you do every day? These are important questions, so spend time thinking deeply on them. You could also use the PERMA model to bring more meaning and happiness to your life. I mean, PERMA stands for positive emotion, engagement, positive relationships, meaning and accomplishment / achievement. I'll put a link in the description below to explain more, so just take a step back and think that if you're in the wrong role or career, you can develop a career strategy to help you plan for a career that's better for you. This could be all part of job crafting, because that's exactly what I did, and it helped me enormously. There is no doubt that I wouldn't be where I am today without doing so. But to help me, I had to create a career planner, which was my way of finding out what drives me and help create a plan to work towards. There's also a link in the description below for the complete career planner, so do check it out. Number 2 is about performing a job analysis. When you experience work overload day in and day out, you could start to feel as if you're on a never-ending treadmill. One that no matter how hard you try, you will never ever catch up and it just won't slow down. This is demoralizing, stressful, and often ends up in burnout. It's worth performing a job analysis so you can clarify what's expected of you and what isn't in the role that you're performing. If you feel that your boss is assigning more work than you can handle, then schedule a private meeting to discuss the issue. Let him or her know exactly how you're feeling. This can be hard, and there is nothing more scary than opening up or being vulnerable to your boss. I mean, I know the benefits of doing so because I've had members of my teams do it to me, and I've done it to bosses in the past. Yes, your heart will be going like the absolute clappers beforehand, but if you say nothing, nothing will change. So it's worth thinking about. But make sure you come prepared with some options that can be considered for shifting certain tasks or projects to someone else if that's part of your plan. Number 3 is about taking control. It is possible to avoid and overcome burnout by finding ways to create more autonomy in your role, for example. It all starts with talking. Try talking with your boss to see if he or she is willing to let you have more control over your tasks, projects, or deadlines, for example. You may need to prove that you're able to do this, perhaps start off with a trial period or a proof of concept, which is really just a fancy way of saying, see if it works. If you can do this, you'll also feel more in control of your work, especially if you manage your time effectively too. Go all in on learning. Seek out prioritization techniques. Make use of to-do lists or create an action program. These are all ways to try and take back control of your day. It won't be easy, but it is definitely worth it. Number 4 is exercise regularly. Now, this is one I'm particularly supportive of because I know that exercise can help alleviate stress and create an enormous sense of well-being. So much so that for me, I've managed to build a habit that means I work out before work every day. In the same way, The Rock, who is without doubt one of my idols, although I probably shouldn't admit that out loud, talks about the Iron Paradise being his anchor. But that's exactly how I feel. Having some time to mentally prepare, tune out or focus gives you a grounding that stands you in a great stead to tackle what the day throws at you. You might not be an early morning person, and that's fine. So just find a time that works for you to exercise. But by exercising, you will also experience increased energy and productivity, and that can only be a good thing. What's more, regular exercise will also help you get a good night's sleep. And who doesn't love a good night's sleep? And number 5 is all around learning to manage stress. When not managed well, there is no doubt that short-term stresses can contribute to burnout. This is why we should all learn how to manage stress effectively. There are so many ways to try and manage stress. You could, for example, keep a stress diary. This is to document what routinely causes you stress and also incorporates a practice that I've used in life coaching called notice and naming. By noticing and naming, you are writing down and capturing what is causing you stress so that you can begin to address it. Identifying the environment, the triggers, and those actions which help you cope with it. Have a Google of John Berardi of precision nutrition fame to know more, because he is the guy that came up with it. It's fascinating with how he deals and teaches the noticing and naming techniques when looking to control your diet. You could also practice deep breathing, meditation, and other relaxation techniques, as these can all help you calm down when you're experiencing stress. We shouldn't underestimate the power of positive thinking in managing stress either, because by managing the way we think, we can tackle the stress demons and challenge unhelpful thoughts into more positive reactions. And that's it. Being able to identify, manage, and avoid burnout is key to maintaining balance in our lives. Burnout is a mixture of professional exhaustion and disillusionment with other people, the organization, or the career that you're in over the long term. But it doesn't have to rule our lives. The wonderful thing is we're all in control of our careers. Yes, there is more flexibility at times than others, but finding a job that serves you and motivates you to achieve will put you in a much better mental state. Burnout causes low productivity, low creativity, and even health problems. So please don't let that be you. Take control Life is too short to do jobs you don't enjoy. So I believe that if you do a job you enjoy and you're good at it, the money will come. With that in mind, I would recommend this video here where I talk about why I quit my job with nothing to go to. I think you'll find it pretty insightful. With that, have a great day and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.